Thank you very much, and welcome to News Extra. And my guests today are from the North Platte Natural Resources District. I have John Berge and Scott Schaneman. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. It's a busy season for the NRD, even though you might not think so at this time of year.
It is indeed. Thanks for having us, Scott. We've got a lot going on. We're in the process of ramping up for the water year, ramping up some of our programs, which is one of the reasons we're here to talk to you. And we're also in the process of wrapping up our integrated management planning for the second increment. So we're swamped.
You're busy,
yes,
yeah, to say
indeed.
the least. And you've got signups coming up on a couple of programs, and we'll address both of those here. But the first one I wanted to talk a little bit about right now is the program, the EPIC program. Explain that one first and some details on the sign up.
Yeah, so EPIC stands for the Encouraging Producer Innovation Through Conservation Program, and we've used this program for a couple of different purposes over the past few years. One was we used it as a bonus payment program for those people that were just about to leave a federal contract. So if they were in a CREP contract or an AWEP contract, we use this as a bonus payment to keep them in those contracts, to keep that land idle. And the second thing is the allocation buy-down program, which was really a brainchild of Scott. So I'm going to have him talk a little bit more about that. But really the sum total of it is that we're offering opportunities for landowners to sell us back part of their allocation in order to meet the goals and obligations of the integrated management plan.
We're going to be kicking off our sign-up on February 19th, and we'll run through the 1st of March for the EPIC program. Producers would be allowed to come in by appointment and sit down with me or any of my staff to go through the program, talk a little bit about what's available to them and how it would fit into their management scenarios. Each farm is different as far as management styles and techniques, and the program may fit some and may not fit others. So I encourage folks, even if you just want to learn a little bit about it, get in contact with me or my staff, and we can sure fill in the details for you. But again, it's a program that is allocation buyback. We'll buy some of the allocation that you intend to not use. We're going to be offering special incentives this year on dryland converting. Mm-hmm. So there's a few moving pieces to the program, and we would certainly like to sit down and visit with those producers and figure out if it works for their farm.
How has the participation been in this over the course of time?
The participation level has been phenomenal. It's been very well received with our area agri-producers. We allocate several hundreds of thousands of dollars to the program, and we exhaust the funds before we can pay out all the contracts. Mm. That's just how encouraged our producers are about the program. We'd love to be able to throw more money into it,
sure,
but that's just not possible. So we try to get all those folks served as best we can.
And, of course, those sign-ups are coming up very soon. John?
I should point out, too, that this is a program for groundwater-only producers. This is not for commingled or for surface water. We do have a number of other programs for those growers, but this is for groundwater-only growers. And just to sort of piggyback onto what Scott was saying, not only is this popular amongst our landowners for a way for them to manage their operations and deal with some of these commodity pricing issues that we have currently, but it's also been very well received by funding partners. Scott mentioned that we spend out a few $100,000 each year on this. This is the 4th year of this program. Last year, 40% of our funding came from the Water Resources Cash Fund from the state. So we are looking at ways that we can cobble together and leverage some of those other funds for the program as well.
Okay. And there's another program that we want to talk about, the TAPP H2O program. We're going to come right back and talk about that after this break. Welcome back, everyone, and on our News Extra today, we have John Berge and Scott Schaneman from the North Platte Natural Resources District. We're talking about signups for a couple of programs that are pending here very shortly, and of course we were talking about EPIC a little bit earlier. We have a second program called TAPP H2O. John, explain that one a little bit for us.
A number of months ago, we were visited by an individual who's the president of the Mammoth Trading Company out of Denver, Colorado, and she is working on a application program for smart devices that essentially utilizes those devices to gather water use information, provide it back to Mammoth Trading Company, and they will do some analytics on your water use and energy use over the course of time to ensure that best management practices are being implemented. We see this as a really potentially a very important tool for our growers to be able to use this. It compares your water use and your inputs and ultimately even your yields with a cohort of people that are in your same circumstance. So it may be geography, it may be soil type, it may be crop type, but you are getting compared with those people. All of this information is private, so you're not, I'm not comparing myself with Scott, and Scott knows what I'm up to, and he knows what I'm up to. But it is a comparison where Scott and other growers like him that are neighbors of mine can be compared. So we entered into an arrangement with her to provide some match money so that we've got the availability now of 500 subscribers or 500 flow meters to utilize this particular application, and we'd sure like to see our growers use it and see how it works and benefits them. That sign up is also occurring on February 19th, and it will run the entire month of March.
And ultimately, I suppose you'd be able to aggregate some information to share with all
Yes.
all of the irrigators in the district. And producers and explain what works, maybe what doesn't.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the areas that we're trying to focus on is the cost of production, right? So when we have commodity prices where they're at today, cost of production actually becomes a much more important management tool than it may have been, a $6 corn. And through that, through this program, I think we're going to be able to impress upon growers that even the most minor adjustments in their operations can save them thousands and thousands of dollars, and this is an opportunity to do that. We provide information in an aggregate to landowners anyway. We know through the allocations analysis that we do each year that water use is X and crop requirements are Y, but this will allow the landowners to operate on a much more frequent basis with this company and make those determinations real time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The signups will also run alongside in parallel with our Epic signup, so area producers can come in and see my staff and visit a little bit about the program if they have any questions. One thing I would like to add to what John has mentioned, the big driver, it seems like anymore with our ag producers, is putting a number, a value on what water pumped is. And that is one of the things that this program is trying to accomplish, is to how much an acre inch does it cost that producer to bring that out of the ground.
So they can calculate the
Right.
inputs and final costs of what they're going to get
Right.
out of the crop production by the end of the year. That certainly makes a lot of sense.
Very, very simple sign up. It's a web-based sign up and a form that the NRD will provide to our growers for their consent and signature, and they're on their way.
I would assume the sign up for Epic is something similar in that respect.
Very much so.
Okay. Let's talk real briefly. We've got just a little bit of time here to talk about legislation pending in with the Nebraska legislature. Of course, there is the bill to help provide the 3-cent levy for NRDs that are fully or over appropriated. Explain where we may be with that and hopefully where it's headed to.
Well, it's an important tool for us. It's pending right now in front of the Revenue Committee. Senator Stinner carried that bill again this year for us, and we really appreciate his work on this issue. It's a tool that we hope to not have to use. I would compare it sort of to the nuclear arsenal that we have in the United States. We've got all of these weapons laying around that we hope to never have to use. We've we've used this authority in the past, but we've used it incrementally and very judiciously, and it's designed to work for management of water specifically, and something that we hope is reinstated, given that we're not fully educated on what the number for fully appropriated is going to be for our district. So we're pushing very hard on that piece of legislation. In the event that it doesn't pass, we're going to try to make do with what we've got. We've cut 20% out of our budget over the past 2 fiscal years. I don't know that we're going to be able to cut 20% again because we're getting into the bone, but we've become a much leaner organization and had to reprioritize costs, and some of those priorities that we've normally had in the past have suffered because of it. So we hope this comes back and we can use it again as judiciously as we have in the past.
And it sounds like that authority also helps provide funding for voluntary conservation efforts and efforts to help you meet those water management goals, as opposed to imposing more and potentially more onerous regulations on water users.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we need these tools in order to continue to provide this balance that we have between incentives and regulation. In lieu of incentives, in lieu of these kinds of investments, the board is going to have no choice but to go back and start to look at various different levels of regulation in order to meet our goals. We just hope it doesn't come to that.
And we'll just have to find out if that, in fact, is the case coming down the road with the legislature.
Indeed.
John, Scott, thank you very much for joining us on News Extra today.
Thank you.